feels like the Rodgers return this year is dead. It's just hard to, unless they get ridiculously hot these 3 games before he was supposed to come back. I think it's probably sunk in with him, and it's probably sunk in with the organization. The risk reward does not really add up if the Jets are out of the playoffs when he's eligible to be activated.
Yeah, I mean, it feels objectively insane to look at
yes,
them.
Like when you really step back, yeah.
They're 4-7. It probably would take 10 to make the playoffs in the AFC, maybe 9. And considering the timeline, considering his age, considering the weather he'd be playing in those games and the defenses he'll be going against, the risk reward is totally off balance. And I understand the wow, it will add some juice and excitement to the team. We can show how we can finish the year strong with this guy at quarterback. He could save Hackett's job. He'll get Garrett and Brees energized again. None of that is worth him potentially coming back and getting hurt again and limiting what he can do next year, or struggling a lot, which is probably likely when he comes back and everyone being like, oh my God, what is this going to even look like next year? It's a different conversation if they're 6-5 right now or 7-4. You're in sort of different territory, but this is such an historically bad offense to put him into. It just feels like you're going to be 5-10 playing on Thursday night in Cleveland against that defense who's playing for their lives and probably starting Joe Flacco at quarterback. It just feels like it's going to have a bad ending. So I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm not going to say it's fully dead because I'm sure Rodgers is going to string it out, and how they end this year will be fascinating. The Jetsiest way to end this year, because they've been in this spot so often. We're in our comfort zone. We've done this a million times. I've seen this version of a Jet season a million times. What usually happens in this final 5 or 6 game stretch is, at this point, just about everyone wants the Jets to lose out, right? They're looking at Tankathon. They're saying, look, we could get a top 4 or 5 pick. We can get Marvin Harrison Jr. We could get Joe Alt. We could get someone we're really excited about. We could have a quarterback conversation. Usually when that happens, the Jets will probably go 2-4 or 3-3 down the stretch, right? They'll probably win a couple games ugly. They'll have a couple young players will have some moments where their stats will get carved out into the quarter of the season. I remember they did this with Darnold when they went 4-12. It's his final 4 games, he averaged 246 yards per game. Did it with Geno in 2013. His final 4 games, he did this. D. Milner, his final 4 games, he was defensive rookie of the month. This happens a lot. Now, this team is very bad on offense to the point where I would not be shocked at all if they lost out. I really wouldn't. That being said, they are playing a Washington team who's pretty bad. They're playing a New England team who is really bad, and I think maybe openly embracing tanking finally for the first time. And of course, that would be when the Jets would finally beat them and position New England for a new quarterback. We'll talk about that later in the year. The Houston and Atlanta games are interesting in that, Cleveland, Houston's a young team. Could they not show up for a road game? Sure. And Atlanta's a weird team as well, where you expect those games to be especially the Atlanta one this weekend, I think it's going to be close and ugly. And could something weird happen where the Jets win and everyone's we didn't really want them to win that one, but now they're 5-7. Sure. So from a coaching staff perspective, how much is it going to look like this team has quit completely? And how undisciplined are they? How undisciplined are they going to be? Because the last 2 weeks, they've gotten their asses kicked and they've been punked on the field. Teams are beating them, laughing in their face, starting fights with them. They're getting humiliated again. Is that going to happen for 6 more weeks? Because then things look really dire for this coaching staff. Or are they going to be kind of feisty, win a few games, be competitive with Miami for a little bit? I don't know what the hell is going to happen at quarterback. Why they aren't playing. And I don't want to act like Trevor Siemian is good or the answer to anything. I do think he's the best quarterback on the roster, most likely. So he'll probably end up playing at some point, but there's such a question at quarterback. I don't know. They could really lose out. And when they fall behind in these games, they're kind of falling apart. I mean, I guess if someone asked you right now what you think their final record will be, what do you think it will actually be? And what are you I think at this point, I used to be very I'm rooting very hard for the tank. I'm more look, they're going to do what they're going to do. No matter how I root,
exactly.
Where are your eyes kind of on that draft board right now?
I think they finished 7-10. And maybe that some people will listen to that and be like, wow, that's wildly optimistic. And I think people that react that way, there's a little recency bias. Like the Jets aren't as bad as they've been recently, and they're not as good as they were during that stretch where they beat the Eagles. And I'll say it, they really should have beat the Chiefs. They beat the Broncos, who are 6-5 now. Like you look at the Jets,
The mighty Broncos.
The Jets' wins are remarkable. I mean, they beat the Bills, they beat the Eagles, they beat the Broncos. They really, really should have beat the Chiefs. It's just that they've also had horrific losses. I mean, the Raiders' loss was kind of feels like a season ender. So you do the quarterback schedule thing, right? You started out the year where you played Josh Allen. You already played him twice. Dak Prescott, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert. The final 6, you're playing Desmond Ridder. CJ Stroud's been remarkable, but it's no lock. He's also had rookie games, right? Like he lost to the Panthers, okay? He lost to the Panthers. Like maybe Stroud lights up the Jets, but really nobody has kind of done that consistently this year through the air. But we'll see. Stroud's still probably the best overall talent on this list I'm reading off. Ridder, Stroud, Tua again, who, I mean, the Dolphins wanted nothing to do with Tua trying to take over that game. The one time they had him throw outside the numbers, Brandon Echols ran it back again. The Dolphins are just like, we're gonna run crack toss and we're gonna throw quick passes to Tyreek Hill and we're gonna still win by 20 or whatever points. So it's not even like glamorizing Tua. Desmond Ridder, Stroud, Tua, Sam Howell, whoever the hell is healthy enough to play for the Browns, they are in a horrible situation right now under center. And whoever
we know it's Flacco.
It's probably Flacco, and then it's probably Bailey Zappi, Will Greer.